Coaching is all about choice, getting more of what you want and less of what you don't want. When you allow yourself to matter, you're healthier and stronger and making better decisions about what you want to create out in the world.
Yay, so Robin and I are so excited today. We have one of our beefless cakes, page 98, with us today, Alyssa Almond. She's going to be talking about some of the really...
And
that's very important. And apparently Juno is off camera doing exactly this pose right now, I heard. So maybe as we get started, you can introduce yourself and talk about how the three of us know each other, because I think we have kind of a cool connection, the three of us.
Yeah, right. So we have an IHE, Institute for Humane Education connection for sure. And Jules and I met 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. Yeah, for Creative Vegans weekend excursion. Yeah, on the Cape. And yeah, and then I met Robin. Robin prepared this amazing Thanksgiving feast a couple of years ago that I had the opportunity to attend. So yeah, it's been great. I'm an ICF certified coach, and I work with vegans, primarily women, but anyone really. And it's about helping people find their fulfillment. The combination of purpose and happiness, kind of really finding that sweet spot and knowing that, despite all the suffering that, we're acutely aware of, we're allowed to be happy, having the permission to really, and the responsibility to claim our own lives and what we want.
What would you say to the critics out there who hear the term life coach and roll their eyes?
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. It's not therapy. We're not doctors, right? But coaching is all about choice, getting more of what you want and less of what you don't want, and having accountability, someone to be present and listen when you say, look, I really want this. So how am I going to go about creating it? So yeah, and I struggle with, like, what do I call myself? Now the thing is, people just call themselves coaches if they're life coaches, right? Versus, let's say, some people, you might say wellness, but like fitness or health or vegan lifestyle, or whatever. I'm working myself on owning that and knowing that coaching, empowers people to bring about the changes that they seek, and to do a lot of, there's a deep dive into the self, and it's a very complex process because we are complex individuals, and there's so many layers of what we've been taught to believe about ourselves, about each other, certainly about animals and the planet.
So I think what you're doing is so special, because people who are kind of spreading the good word about ending factory farming, it takes a lot of energy. And so having these places like you to go to like replenish themselves so that they can get back to crusading and doing what they love is so cool. I'm curious, do you have a typical kind of person or state of mind that someone's in when they come to you? I remember going to somebody once who was sort of a life coach, and she said, yeah, no one really ever comes to me when they're in a good place.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So you can be in a good place and say, thriving, and I want more of this, right? Mm-hmm. So that's certainly a possibility. But people in career change, right? They've done one job, whether it's in AR or something different, and they want and need a change. It could be also, a point in their lives, kind of with age and, sandwich generation kind of questions. It tends to be folks who are middle-aged, right, who've lived a certain amount and want a lot more and are really longing to claim that space for themselves.
I like the use of your word fulfillment. I think that's really pretty and like feels good. With your experience at IHE and the way, those courses were taught, and like how much of that really like encouraged you to like remain a positive message when obviously like addressing things that cannot be great.
So one of the great things that came out of my time with IHE, and it's still very much a part of my life, is understanding the whole, right? That it's not just animals, right? It's the exploitation of humans and of course the planet, and becoming aligned with my own values of how I want to live, very simply. And I want to think about the choices I make and how they affect others. And that's about responsibility. And there's a lot of power in responsibility when we say, this is what I'm about, and this is how I'm going to live accordingly. But it's usually a very conscious effort, and change takes time, right? So, with coaching, having the structure and the accountability of the coach to move forward toward what we all want, which, yeah, Robin, you said fulfillment. We all long for that. And many of us, I think, in the movement, and many humans, we don't believe it's possible anymore, if we ever did.
Yeah. I think we all sort of left IE with that, like, I don't know what the right word is, like this just larger perspective. Like we're seeing a lot of the pieces. It can be really, I don't want to say easy, but it can be really easy to kind of get stuck in tunnel vision. And like, I'm just looking at this one thing and we have to fix this one thing. And if everybody stops doing this, it's going to fix everything. And like sort of that.
Yeah.
That's not realistic. And I think what you said is perfect, that this is a conscious effort. It is larger than just this one item or one situation, that it's like us becoming fulfilled or searching for that leads to this grander perspective and being able to see like our place in things.
Yeah. One of the things I got caught up on, how do we make change at the systems level? It's very daunting. And yet, even considering that is really rich and powerful, because we understand the level of impact that's possible, right? We're not putting band-aids on anything. So for me as a coach, what it is sort of a systems level change within the individual, and that the ripple goes out from there. And here's the thing, I think in AR especially, right, we're trained to think about a numbers game, right? And certainly we individual humans, our lives don't really matter because there's so much that needs to be done. There's so much suffering that needs to be addressed in multiple areas. But not the secret or the key, but you could say one of them is coming back and saying, what works for me based on who I am. Right? Like I'm an empath and a highly sensitive person. So, it's great for me to work one-on-one, but claiming that when we're doing what we love, and I'm sure you both have found this with Plant-Based Point, when you're doing what you love, the action is inspired and it carries a certain resonance, right? People can feel that you're truly excited. And you're not just going through the motions, you're living it, right? And that's inspiring to other people.
I think one of the most powerful things we can do is find that thing that lights us up. And sometimes that's hard, again, when you're in this space where things look really bleak and dreary. How do you be the light, find the light, spread joy? But I think really what we are all trying to do is such a joyful thing. We're celebrating life. And I wonder, Alyssa, do you have sort of, I don't want to say ground rules because that puts a negative spin on it, but sort of like a toolkit that when someone comes to you and says, I'm in this, I guess, a midlife crisis, I don't know where my life is headed, or I do, but I don't know how to get there. Do you say, hey, here's a few things that you need to start out with?
There are definitely places I start. And some of my clients are not vegan, and that's not something that they're aspiring to. But where we start is kind of looking at the whole life, and where is it that you want change, that you're looking for greater fulfillment, right? Is it with respect to relationships, career, spirituality, health, finances? And then what is it that you truly want, and getting really honest with yourself. So there's lots of questions that I ask in the beginning to identify where a person is and what some of the beliefs, thoughts that they have that might be hindering them, preventing them from creating what they want in their lives.
You're just giving me so many things to chew on, because it makes me think about worthiness. And I think
oh my God, worthiness, huge. Absolutely a fundamental thing for me in my own journey. And that's part of what being a coach is for me, is doing my own work. There's an expression, coach, heal thyself, right? So that I'm not trying to take someone on a journey I haven't been on myself. A common emotion that I've noticed, if we talk about the entire range of emotions from very highly resonant to the lowest kind of negative, is worthlessness. And man, if that's at your core, that's going to affect everything else and every single decision you make in your life, whether it's trying to prove something, to prove your worthiness, or staying away from what's really inside of you that you want to create and put out in the world. Because it's just, I don't have it. She might have it. They have it. I don't have it.
I think that's sometimes behind the skepticism when people hear a word like life coach, is they're not allowing themselves the luxury of putting themselves first.
Oh, it feels like a luxury, right? And especially, I think in movements like animal rights, anything that that feels really important and about justice and service, right? I'm the servant, and I don't matter. But when you allow yourself to matter, you're healthier and stronger and making better decisions about what you want to create out in the world. And burnout, right, is a very real thing. So if we're not taking care of ourselves, it's going to catch up. It's absolutely going to catch up. Being a martyr is really not a good thing. It ends up being kind of a very self-centered, irresponsible place to be. We've been taught that yes, I'm going to carry the burdens. I'll do it. I'm the only one who can. Well, no, let's do it together. I get to say no about what I can and can't do, and so do you. And we do what we can.
Are there fundamentals of self-care that you think are universal, or is it very tailored to each person, what's going to give them that feeling of worthiness and care?
I don't think that self-care gives you worthiness. I think it's claiming that you're on that journey. Like I'm willing to to claim that I matter and work on some of these things. But yes, self-care can be very individual. Like, what do you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy kitchen sock dancing, or do you enjoy lying out in a field? You know, which species do you like hanging out with the most? Are you someone who needs a nap?
Mm-hmm.
If you need a nap, take it, because then it infuses you. So it's really about giving yourself permission to do those things that are nurturing. And I'm not talking about indulgence, right? I'm not talking about, I'm going to eat everything in the cupboard now because I get to, I deserve it. Oh, okay, it's fine. We all do it. It's fine, right? But what is healthy for my body, my mind, my spirit in this moment, you know, and what do I need to do to then to move forward?
If someone's stuck in that moment of, is this action I'm tempted to take self-care or overly indulgent in that treat yourself mindset that I think can be a little bit dangerous, is there a question you can pause and ask yourself to know if it's truly a self-care decision?
I think it's, what do I really want and need in this moment? Right. And it could be connection. I really need connection with another being right now. Or it could be, man, I have been dreaming about this. I've been fantasizing about this cupcake all day, and now it's time, and I'm going to really enjoy it. I'm going to savor it. Like, this is one of the best things about being human, is that we have exposure to and the opportunity to eat so many different foods from around the globe. So yeah, if you're going to love it, then yes. And it's okay if you make a mistake. Like, oops, I think maybe that wasn't the best choice. Okay, next time we'll see. Maybe I'll choose something different.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I don't know if anything but time and experience can teach us, but the idea that mistakes are also okay. And the growth is in how quickly you can recover. That's what I've noticed. It's not that my demons go away. It's that when I do slip up, I do not punish myself. We don't take time out to like do anything other than be curious. Why did you do that? Maybe you can think about what was really going on there and then immediately move on. Would you agree
Absolutely.
that that's, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we're going to continue to make mistakes. There's even an expression, fail forward, right? The amount of learning that comes from failing. It's vulnerable, right? Which is uncomfortable. But the opportunity, right, for growth is huge.
Yeah, I appreciate the differentiation between, like, is it something you're indulging in? Is it actually self-care? Like, how do we kind of assess that? I think, and I'm curious your opinion on this, especially this last year, a lot of people at home more. I'm sure I'm assuming you're hearing more and more, you know, folks having those kinds of struggles. I know I've noticed it, and I don't know if you can comment on it, more of, especially a social media driven, you know, hashtag self-care, pour a glass of wine at the end of the night, like this sort of slip into, maybe that glass of wine is that thing you thought about all day, and you're like, cool, I'm going to sit on the couch and put my feet up and have a glass of wine and kind of keep myself in check, and similar to the cupcake. But I get this sense that there's sort of this cultural shift of normalizing, you need that glass of wine at the end of the night, you deserve it, it's self-care, you've had a long day. And it's that argument you can now have in your head that says, well, but it's you know, I'm in COVID, I'm in lockdown, I'm working from home, my kids are driving me crazy. Like, we're kind of stacking these things up to justify this idea that that glass of wine now becomes a bottle of wine, and it's like a trend at this point. I don't know, like, are you seeing that with some of your people who you're working with now, or noticing that too, that shift into that is self-care?
I think it's really easy to call anything self-care. And I think when when we ask ourselves, when we're really honest with ourselves, what do I need right now? And maybe, hey, a glass of wine, maybe with some friends outside on the patio. Yeah, absolutely. Time to connect, breathe outside and really enjoy it. Yeah, versus the habit of,
Yeah.
right. It's a very unconscious habit of, it's the end of the day and I'm going to pour it and it's still COVID. So I'm going to pour it. And in no way am I condemning, right?
Right.
Because I have absolutely, completely been there. But again, it comes back to asking the question of, what do I want in my life? And what do I have control over? There's so many things we don't have control over COVID. We don't have control over what other people are doing in our neighborhoods, at the schools, at the, local and federal level. But we do have control over what we say to ourselves, and what we do.
Yeah.
Think about like tumblers, like long day, glass of wine, hashtag self-care. Again, because I've been there too. I've for sure self-cared myself into a bottle of wine. So I get it, but I worry, what is this doing to this overall idea of like, but what is taking care of yourself?
That's fascinating. Yeah. Right. It sounds like we're talking about, shortcuts, right?
Right.
And what's an easy fix?
I almost wonder if it all comes back to, and I think you used this word earlier, Alyssa, it's giving yourself permission to have your feelings, or like permission to have a life coach, permission to talk about self-care and think about what that really is, which is addressing how you're really feeling. So I think for me, what I've noticed, the slippery slope of self-care, and like I'm talking about the exploited, consumerist version of that, comes from like swallowing the feelings that I'm actually experiencing about 100 different things in any given moment.
I totally agree, but we've been taught that we're not allowed to have our emotions, or that there's certain ones we're not allowed to have. And as human beings, we're absolutely entitled to the full range of emotions. That doesn't mean we emote on to others necessarily, right? We have responsibility with our emotions, but to experience them, like, what I'm actually feeling is loneliness or rejection or abandonment, or I'm really feeling not good. I'm not good enough in this space, right? And those things, we avoid feeling them because they can be really uncomfortable, and yet they're natural and real.
Is your goal as a life coach to put yourself out of business? Or do you think people should have life coaches all throughout their life?
Yeah, I've been a client, off and on for years. And I'm currently not seeing my life coach, but we had a 1.5 year relationship, and we will, I'm sure, do coaching again. Right. So one of the great things about coaching is that clients learn tools to use for themselves. Right. You mentioned earlier, Robin, about sort of recovery. No, Jules, about recovery. Right. So not going there for as long, or being able to recover, having more resilience. But the sacred space of being completely yourself and being witnessed and we is invaluable. So, and for coaches, it's great for coaches to have coaches, because we all, we benefit from the time and the space to look at where we are, what's going on, what we want and what we don't want.
Do you encourage people to have sort of like an introductory call and maybe talk to several life coaches before committing? Because is it very important to find the right fit, or does it matter?
I do recommend people have calls with multiple individuals.
How did you come to be vegan? What's your vegan story?
Well, I've been a vegetarian since I was 13, and yeah, so 1989, and so I didn't know much about. And for me, it was animals, right? I'm choosing not to eat animals. I can't do that. Doesn't make any sense to me. And then to become vegan, I married an omnivore when I was 30. So, probably wasn't going to happen then. And also where I was in my life, it wasn't a great place. And I intentionally did not do research. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't nearly as much research as, information and the internet and all that as there is now. Yeah. So once I learned, right, the minute I learned about eggs and dairy, it's done. It's over. Can't participate in that anymore. Yeah.
And you mentioned when we were offline that you still do a fair amount of shopping and cooking for your current household. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like and the members of the family and their diets and how you make all of that work?
Right. So yeah, when I moved in with my sister and my nephew, neither one of them was vegetarian. And, then I started doing the bulk of the shopping and, a lot of the cooking. So I was able to influence. And my nephew became a vegetarian on his own accord. Certainly not, right, because his mother wasn't vegetarian and his dad is an omnivore. So he came to that. Because of the animals, he'll say. He won't go into it, but because of the animals, he'll say. And so we don't talk about eggs and dairy. If they have any questions, obviously I'm going to answer those. So I do the shopping and the cooking, and of course vegan food is good. So what's not to love, right? There isn't anything extra that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are your biggest hits in the house? So you've got 2 vegetarians and 1 vegan. You're doing the cooking. It's vegan. What are those like go-to dishes that just you nail it and they love it?
Yeah. So we do a usually it'll be a Sunday night. We'll do a yakisoba, which is actually udon, with a soy sauce based sauce and corn and broccoli and tofu. Oh my gosh. Well, they're work, but twice baked potatoes. We love those because once they're made, then you can have them for a while. Kale. We're getting into kale salads over here, and we're really massaging the dressing into the kale, which makes a huge difference. So we're loving that. We now have tofurkey sandwiches, tofurkey and cheese sandwiches that we haven't done before, but we're into that now. We love like Kite Hill ravioli, tortellini, for sure. We do stir fries. We do curries. Roasted anything, roasted vegetables. Yeah, black bean anything.
And real quick for my benefit and for all the folks out there who keep asking me this, which I totally understand, how do you handle your tofu?
Yeah, we usually buy it just in a package and then we press it ourselves. And it may be that we just use something like soy sauce as a marinade, or we buy a marinade, or, if there's one that we put together from a recipe. And plenty of times we don't marinate it. Right? It gets marinated in whatever sauce you have, or it's fine by itself, right? Well, I'm a little bit hard to find, but you can find me on LinkedIn, just this, and on Facebook under a black and white, the photo of a black and white cat. But yes, August 25th, the workshop is 7 strategies for letting go of what you can't control and embracing what you can. So it's an interactive workshop for ethical vegans, although anyone is welcome. Yeah.
Excellent. When we share this video, we'll make sure to give everyone all the information. We'll put your LinkedIn link there. And any final words, especially if somebody's thinking about a life coach or on the fence about it, anything more you'd like to say?
Yeah, it's taking the time for yourself. It's about creating more of what you want and less of what you don't want in your life, and moving on that path. And it can be in any area.
So for folks who like running races, I feel like there's always this sort of judgment if you walk for a little bit. It's like, oh, but if you walk for a little bit, you can actually improve your overall time because you can do better on mile, blah, 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 down the line. So it's almost like by taking that time out, slowing down, like taking care of yourself, getting your coach, like getting your things lined up, you're actually going to improve things in the long run. And so like not worrying about the folks who are kind of being judgy on the side.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And as far as animal rights go, it's taking care of yourself so you can be there in the long haul. Mm-hmm. And also contributing in the way that you want to contribute, and being the healthiest and happiest that you can be by claiming that for yourself and making decisions that align with who you are and who you want to be.